Hello everyone, back with Patty Reads Doll. Today we are going to be reading Chapter 2, The First Night Out. And here is the picture that we see on the first page of Chapter 2. We hadn't been long out of Springfield when the order to halt was called down the line. As soon as the palace car came to a stop, Patty, with me in her pocket, jumped out to watch the first camp making. The Donner children came tumbling out of their wagons, and with the dogs barking, the children shouting, and the cattle mooing and milling around, it's a wonder the men were able to get any order at all. They finally got the wagons arranged in a large circle in the grassy field where we had halted. The tongue of each wagon was drawn up close to the tailboard of the wagon ahead of it. Then the oxen were unyoked and let out to graze on the tender spring grass where the cows were already munching. Tents for the men to sleep in were pitched inside the circle. The women and children slept in the wagons. Back in the palace car, Eliza and Mrs. Reed were already fixing dinner just as though they were back home in their kitchen in Springfield. A little cook stove had been set up, and the smell of meat cooking and biscuits baking soon drew the children back to their home wagons. After dinner, we heard the thump of hooves on the dirt road, and more people from Springfield arrived. Uncle James and Uncle Gershom looked in to see how Grandma had liked her first day's journey. "It's as cozy a bedroom as a body could want," she told them. "They still think I'll give up and turn back with them," she whispered to Patty after the two men had left to help with the bonfire that was being built outside. The editor of the Springfield paper was there talking to Mr. and Mrs. Reed about the condition of the roads through Illinois. "You must send back a full account of everything. There'll be plenty of folks hereabouts who will be anxious to follow you out next spring. Sort of wish I were going myself," he said. And Mr. Reed promised to send back word by any they should meet who were returning. Everyone gathered around the high roaring bonfire, laughing and singing and telling stories, mostly about the wonderful land we were going to, California, where people were healthy and happy and flowers bloomed all year round. Here is a picture of the children playing around where they're camped out. Soon the youngest children were led back to the wagons and tucked into bed. Patty and 12-year-old Leanna Donner and the two 14-year-olds, Puss and Alitha Donner, were allowed to stay up and sing songs with the grown-ups. But it had been a day full of excitement, and it wasn't long before Patty was yawning, and her mother, catching sight of her sleepy little daughter, motioned to her that it was bedtime. Grandma was still awake when Patty climbed back into the wagon, and she whispered to her as she undressed, "Do you think they can see our bonfire back in Springfield, Grandma?" "I wouldn't doubt, child, that there's many back there who are watching tonight and wishing us luck," the old lady said. And that is the end of Chapter 2. There's a picture of the wagons down here that they're staying in. Check back with us the next day and we will read Chapter 3, called From Springfield to Independence. See you then.